Thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Under strange and unexplainable circumstances. Most cases remain unsolved. What happened? Where did they go? Locations unknown.
Thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
Oh, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a guy who has a polar bear rug on his floor, but it's not dead. It's just too afraid to move. Mike Vandebogart.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you once again to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in. My voice is finally almost back.
It's almost back.
Almost back. We're almost there.
You're sounding good.
Going on 4 weeks now. It's wild. So just before we get going here, a couple of announcements. So new Patreon shout outs. Thank you to Lauren Johnson and Philip Van Doren for supporting the show. Quick note for any patron supporters that are due a hat. We are out of our old hats and we're currently...
They stopped making them, or at least through the supplier, that brand, because he represented a bunch of different styles.
Yeah.
And that one, he said, just never came back after COVID. So
I'm currently working on getting new hats sourced, and we will get those out to all of you that are owed one soon as we can.
Which also means the original hats are going to be going up in value every single day.
Yes. So we will be launching a new store.
We've got an unworn pink one.
It's faded though. It's more like tan.
All right, you know what? I'll take it out of the window now, and this could be like auctioned off for charity or something later. You know when we're really famous?
Yeah, right.
All right.
So we're launching a new store soon, real quickly. So a lot of cool new merchandise will go up there, and if you're a Patreon supporter, you will get you can order anything you want from there at the cost. So that'll be really cool.
Cost plus shipping.
Yes.
We're not paying shipping.
No. If you want to call the show and leave a voicemail or text us, I promise this time, Joe, I'll show you all those pictures from that guy who's texting me.
Right, today. Oh, today?
Well, for 2 episodes now, I've said I'll show you after the show because I have like 100
let's
pictures.
do it on Patreon.
Okay. I don't think we can... let's not show...
We won't. We'll talk about it on Patreon.
We'll talk about it.
We'll show it at the live show.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I have permission.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, we'll figure this all out later. And if you're a patron listener, you'll hear it later. And if you're not, go run and sign up.
But call 208-391-6913. We've already been getting a lot of voicemails and texts for our live show.
Awesome.
So
I'm so excited. Do not tell me about any of them.
I haven't looked at it. I mean, the texts I unfortunately see them, but the voicemails I don't.
Okay.
We're doing a big live show on the 23rd because we are getting booted out of our studio because they're turning our building into apartments. We are in the process of locating our next studio.
Yep.
But to celebrate all the fun we've had here, we're going to be doing a live stream for hours on the 23rd of April.
23rd of April. It's going to be awesome.
We'll probably start at like 5 or 6 o'clock our time.
Andy's going to be there. He's going to guest host with us.
We still have to let Evan know he's going to be there.
Yep.
So,
he's in.
Yeah.
He's 100% in.
And we've got a lot of other surprises and fun stuff for that. So stay tuned for more details. If you want to support any of the shows on our network, go listen to Peanut Butter Mountain Podcast, Off the Trails, The Weirdos We Know, Who Runs This Park, and Crime Off the Grid. More to come soon. And finally, if you want to support our show, you can support us through Patreon, YouTube memberships, premium subscriptions on Apple or Spreaker, Or go to our website. We've got a P.O. box. You can just send envelopes of cash.
Yeah, burlap sacks of money.
Yes. Other than that, any updates from you, Joe?
No, sir.
All right.
All right, everybody, let's gear up and get out to explore locations unknown. September 2021. An experienced outdoorsman planned a solo hike in Yosemite's rugged Hetchy wilderness. He planned to hike above O'Shaughnessy Dam, where he intended to fish at the remote Lake Eleanor. After he never returned, a massive search began. Did he drown or get lost in the dense wilderness? Join us this week as we investigate the disappearance of Joel Thomazin.
So, Joe.
So, Mike.
This is the 6th case we've covered now in Yosemite, which is pretty crazy to think.
That is a pretty crazy thing.
So
it's a very visited park, so I get it.
Yeah, and it also kind of seems like a hotbed for disappearances. No, it's one of the most popular parks in the country, so not surprising that a lot of the cases are from here, but
I mean, there's that other one in the Hetchy reservoir.
Fishery.
Yeah, it was in the reservoir, right, for Hetchy?
Hetchy, yeah, it was that area, though. I actually, towards the end, I'm going to go into the other cases a little bit, and I actually have the mileage from where this guy went missing to the other disappearances.
All right. I'm excited.
Yes.
So, as we said, it's at the Yosemite National Park Hetchy Wilderness area along the trail near the O'Shaughnessy Dam. It's in California. It was established in October 1st of 1890 and sees around 4 million visitors per year. A little habitation history of the area. Around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, indigenous peoples first settled in and around the Yosemite Valley, living in the Yosemite Valley during the warm months and migrating to lower elevations during the winter. They were primarily hunter-gatherers. They fished, hunted deer, harvested acorns, and gathered native plants. They utilized controlled burning practices to manage forest and meadows, promoting ecological health and easier hunting. The first documented European American entry into Yosemite Valley occurred in 1851 during the Mariposa Battalion expedition, leading to significant disruption and displacement of the native populations. So here's some interesting facts about Yosemite National Park. Yosemite is one of the few places where you can regularly see a moonbow, a rainbow that forms at night in the midst of waterfalls under a bright moon. I feel like we talked about moonbows before.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered this park now. This is the 6th time. So we've probably talked about moonbows.
But there's a lot of people who are now listeners who didn't know there were moonbows.
Yeah. Or forgot about moonbows.
Or forgot about them. And now you remembered, so you're welcome. Yosemite Valley was shaped largely by glaciers during the Ice Age. Massive glaciers carved out iconic features such as El Capitan, Half Dome, and the valley itself.
Isn't it El Capitan?
El Capitan. Each February, Horsetail Fall famously appears as a glowing fire fall when conditions align perfectly, illuminating the waterfall at sunset in brilliant orange and red. Yosemite Valley is considered the birthplace of modern rock climbing, attracting climbers worldwide. El Capitan is a premier climbing location with routes like the Nose, one of the most famous climbing routes globally. During the cold spring mornings, Yosemite Creek and other streams experience frazzle ice. It's a slushy flowing ice that creates unique surreal ice formations in the park. Yosemite's network of high Sierra camps allow hikers to traverse the backcountry, carrying minimal gear, staying overnight in remote locations with comfortable amenities, a unique experience not common in many wilderness areas. That is called glamping. In the early 1900s, Yosemite was protected by African-American Buffalo Soldiers from the U.S. Army. They were some of the park's earliest stewards, constructing trails and protecting the region before the National Park Service was founded. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. We should do an episode on that. In-depth description of the features. We're going to go into the climate. Yosemite experiences a diverse range of climates due to its varying elevations, ranging from about 2,000 feet to over 13,000 feet. The climate significantly varies by elevation and season. So the lower of elevations are Yosemite Valley at 4,000 feet. We'll see a Mediterranean climate. It's hot, dry, average highs around 85 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's in the summer. The winter are more mild days, cold nights, occasional snow, and sees about 36 inches of rainfall a year. At mid-elevation, so we're talking about Hetchy now at 3,800 feet, hot summers, moderate winters with occasional snow. Higher elevations above 7,000 feet are cooler summers, harsh winters with substantial snowfall up to 10 to 20 feet annually. In winter, December to February, snowfall is common at elevations above 5,000 feet. Yosemite Valley sees occasional snowstorms. It's usually from December through March. Spring is April through May, so snowmelt leads to peak waterfall flow. Wildflowers bloom at lower elevations in April through May as well. In summer, June to August, we see warm to hot temperatures with occasional afternoon thunderstorms. Seeing a thunderstorm from Yosemite Valley must be the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah.
Like a good thunderstorm, that'd be amazing. Peak visitation and high risk for wildfires happens. Of course it does in summer.
Just don't want to be on the chains.
No.
Going up Half Dome with a storm coming in.
No
Just
bueno.
a big granite slab.
Yes.
It's very slippery.
And you're attached to metal chains.
Yeah.
Just no good. Autumn, September to November, you see mild days, cooler nights, vibrant fall colors appear around October, and snow may begin at higher elevations by October as well. So a little bit about the terrain. Yosemite National Park, spanning approximately 1,200 square miles, encompasses a diverse landscape shaped largely by ancient glaciers, dramatic geological events, and erosion. The park is renowned for its spectacular granite cliffs, towering waterfalls, dense forest, lush meadows, deep valleys, and high alpine wilderness. The elevation we said was at 4,000 feet. Let's see here. We'll talk about the Hetchy area. So that's between 3,800 and 4,500 feet. It's very rugged. It's a remote wilderness with steep granite slopes, deep canyons, thick forest cover, and the Hetchy Reservoir. Trails are less traveled, and terrain can be difficult to navigate with rocky or uneven ground. So this is a place where not a lot of people are usually going.
Yeah, it's less traffic than, the Yosemite Valley and some of those trails.
Was the last guy that we talked about, was he doing the PCT in this section of it? Because doesn't a section go right through Hetchy, like a small bit? Am I remembering this right? He was kind of an outcast old man hermit. Remember, he went missing?
Yeah, I kind of remember that. I thought it was farther south.
It might be.
I don't know, though.
My memory can be good or bad. It depends on if I'm right or wrong.
Depends on the day.
So the High Sierra, the elevation is 8,600 to over 10,000 feet. It's a high alpine region characterized by rolling granite domes, exposed granite slabs, open alpine meadows, scattered forests, and trails at this elevation are rocky, steep, and exposed. Weather can change quickly. So some of the other dangers besides what we just talked about, animals are black bears, mule deer, mountain lions, bobcats, coyotes.
Not grizzlies.
Not grizzlies. Red and gray fox. There's 260 species of bird, western rattlesnake, and some of the other things that are threats, obviously the steep terrain and cliffs. You said it yourself. If you're on a granite slab and it starts to rain,
Yeah.
no bueno.
No.
So you can fall from the granite cliffs, loose or slippery rock. There's tons of water hazards, swift rivers, creeks, and waterfalls, drowning risks at streams, lakes, and reservoirs, wildlife encounters. So the big ones would be the black bear, mountain lions, coyotes. They're rarely dangerous, but it is possible. And then just the weather, rapidly changing conditions, especially at the high elevation, severe thunderstorms, lightning, snowstorms, hypothermia risks, heat stroke in the summer months. So there's just, it's a huge park. A lot of people go there. It has some of the normal dangers you'd expect in a national park, but I think with the granite slabs, that's unique. I mean, we hear every year or every other year somebody slides off Half Dome and just slips and dies, unfortunately. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Your plan with that is to probably try to get to the start of that as early as possible in the day.
Yeah.
And try to get up by half, like midday, and then get back down because, storms are usually going to roll in the afternoon. And as the day goes on, it's going to get more crowded. So, yeah, we, remember when we did Angel's Landing in Zion?
Up Walter's Wiggles?
Yeah, we started that before the sun even came up.
Yeah,
we heard that it got really crowded.
It did get really crowded, too.
So, all right.
Google Earth has not been working. I'm going to try and figure this out.
Okay.
So, but it's been like actually failing miserably.
Well, while you figuring that out, I will get into the character profile.
Please do.
So the subject of tonight's case is Joel Curtis Thomazin. He was born August 8th of 1990. He went missing on September 6th of 2021. This would be the date he was last seen. You'll see some reports state September 9th. That was the day that he was supposed to come back out of the wilderness. So his remains have not been found. He was a male, age 31 at the time of his disappearance. He was 5'10", 175 pounds. He had blonde hair, hazel eyes. Outside of that, he had no other distinctive scars, marks, or tattoos. Clothing and gear he was last seen in, so he was pretty well equipped for this hike. He was equipped with extensive camping gear. He had, so these are some of the items that his family and officials noted that were with him. He had this floppy cloth hat, large yellowish tan Kelly backpack, dark blue-green hammock. He had a red and black Camelback style day pack. He had a black and yellow collapsible camp sink, a bright red inflatable kayak with a paddle. He had a small collapsible stove. He had headlamp. He also had a bear-resistant food canister, which is always important when you're hiking in bear country. He had a bright green mummy-style sleeping bag and a fishing pole with a tackle. So, that's a lot of gear. So he was, well prepared, and going out in September is not a bad month to hike Yosemite. It's right after the busy season in the summer. The weather still isn't,
you're not going to be hiking in like super heat either.
Yeah. It's not like, you could probably experience snow at the higher elevations, but most likely you're going to be hiking in decent conditions. It's a little drier that time of year.
Yeah.
So, personality wise, Joel was described by everyone that knew him as an avid outdoorsman who loved nature and adventure. Friends and family knew him. He was also a devoted family man. So he had been married for 7 years and had a 2-year-old son at the time of his disappearance. His enthusiasm for backpacking and fishing was well known, and
so he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And he was responsible and prepared for, all of his outdoor pursuits. So
I would assume he just had a new kid. He's not going to be doing anything too crazy.
Yeah, he seemed like he was, very well prepared, and he was actually in the military too. So, there were no reports of any medical issues at the time of his disappearance, and he's a young, healthy 31-year-old person. So, none of the official reports listed any, medical issues. Professionally, he served as a civil affairs specialist in the United States Army Reserve and worked for Sandy Bros Royalty Restoration, which was a restoration services company in Modesto, California. He was educated locally, a Sonora Union High School graduate and a Stanislaus State University alumnus. Outside of work, like I said, his passions were family and the outdoors. He was an avid hiker and angler. He would always plan multi-day solo hikes with fishing gear in tow because he liked to fish along with hiking. So, by all accounts, Joel was experienced in the wilderness, and his decision to undertake a solo trek in Yosemite not only indicates his confidence in his hiking ability, but is not out of the unusual for him. He's done this. Mm-hmm. In addition, he does have some military background too. So, obviously, he's physically fit and had some level of training in, navigation. And
So not only was he in the outdoors, he probably had like survival experience, stuff they teach you in the military. So like he also has that background as well.
yeah. So, and like I said, he packed, an extensive amount of gear for this hike. So, well prepared. We're not sure if he was familiar with this specific location in Yosemite, but he was familiar with the Sierra Nevada region, just, from growing up there. So, yeah, the trip's route to Hetchy and Lake Eleanor is somewhat off the main tourist path, but Joel specifically planned to fish in a remote lake, indicating likely researched it prior to going out on the hike. So I think it's safe to say he was experienced, maybe not specifically in this location, but in general, more experienced than a lot of the subjects we've covered on the show before. So jumping right into the timeline, before he even left for his hike, Joel did inform his family of his intended route. So Hetchy to Lake Eleanor and back, and his estimated return date, which was September 9th. Unfortunately, he did not file an official itinerary with the NPS, but at least he let his family know where he was going. So that's a big deal for search and rescue. Like, they know what he intended to do.
Yeah.
Versus we've covered some cases where they have no clue. That someone will say, I'm going to go hiking in Yosemite, and then they go missing.
Yeah.
And now searchers are like, well, Yosemite is 1,200 square miles. Like, where do we start?
Yeah.
So at least with this case, he let his family know where he was going. So
I'm going to see if all trails, because there is a trail here.
Yeah.
Going from the dam. That's O'Shaughnessy Dam.
And where's Lake Eleanor?
Right over here.
Right over there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's no small distance.
Yeah. So we're going to go right to September 6th of 2021. Like I said, this was the last known sighting of Joel. So this is when he began his solo backpacking trip in Yosemite. He departed from the Hetchy Reservoir trailhead, and he planned to hike about 9 miles to Lake Eleanor. He was going to fish there and then return by September 9th. So just a couple of days. At approximately 5 p.m. on the 6th, a park ranger spotted Joel on the trail above the O'Shaughnessy Dam as he was completing a steep traverse. And this would turn out to be the last confirmed sighting of him. So we have a sighting from a park ranger. He was in the park. So we know at a minimum he made it into the park, because we've covered cases where we're not even sure if they made it into the park, which makes it even harder to search. So think you don't know the itinerary. You don't even know if they went to where they were going. At least this, we know that he was seen on this trail around that dam at 5 o'clock. So that is hopeful for the searchers. And like I said, he was equipped with ample gear. So he was prepared. It's now September 9th of 2021. This is when he was supposed to return. So when Joel did not return on the 9th as planned, his family grew increasingly worried. Attempts to contact him were likely unsuccessful due to limited cell service in the backcountry. By the 10th, with no word from Joel, his family contacted Yosemite National Park authorities to report him missing, prompting initial checks by rangers before the formal search began on the 11th. Which is what a lot of the sources I found said that the official search actually started on the 11th. It was initially considered that Joel might have chosen to extend his trip as he had the supplies to possibly venture towards nearby wilderness destinations like Cherry Lake or even the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne River, but this was only speculation. So, like I said, September 11th of 2021 was when the kind of official missing persons alert went out and the search launched. So this was Saturday, and Yosemite National Park officially declared Joel missing. Park officials issued a public alert via news outlets and social media urging anyone who had been in the Miguel Meadow, Lake Eleanor, or Hetchy areas since September 6th to contact Yosemite Search and Rescue with any information. And in these announcements, they just reported, basic statistics about him that I covered in the character profile, like age, height, weight, things like that. At the time, the plea was widely shared, and media outlets like the Associated Press picked up the story within days, spreading awareness among the general public. So it's now mid-September of 2021. Intensive search operations kind of went into high gear at this point. The search involved over 100 personnel, including Yosemite Search and Rescue, YOSAR, California Highway Patrol helicopters, U.S. Forest Service teams, and local volunteers. This is another difficult search. Joe kind of went over the terrain of the Hetchy area, very rugged.
Yeah, it won't even let me do make my own route on existing routes.
Yeah, that rugged.
But it looks like it could be it's like 10 miles. But
yeah, it was about 9.
It's a lot of switchbacks.
It was about 9 miles from the trailhead to Lake Eleanor.
Okay.
So
I had a pretty good guess.
Sense. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, search and rescue teams faced challenging terrain. So steep cliffs, dense forests, very remote.
Hiking all over this.
Yeah.
Right through here.
Remote water bodies. These are all along Joel's intended route and beyond. And by late September, mid-late September, the weather, it's going to start getting cold at night, occasional rain. This added to the search difficulties, and at this time, no evidence of Joel or his gear had been found yet. So, ground crews hiked trails and scanned off-trail areas, while helicopters conducted aerial sweeps of the remote terrain and thermal imaging flights at night. The park even deployed boats to search along the shoreline of Lake Eleanor and the Hetchy Reservoir in case Joel or his bright red kayak were in the water. They used specialized resources like search dogs and drones, following standard search protocols for missing hikers. Sadly, despite these exhaustive efforts, which included grid searches of the forest, scanning from the air, and checking along rivers and lakes, no trace of Joel or his equipment was found during the initial search, which is kind of puzzling to me. Well, I'll go into this in more depth during the theory part, but he had a lot of gear with him. Unlike the case we covered last week, where he the guy we covered last week went out into the woods kind of just to close
nothing.
Yeah. This guy had a lot of stuff with him, and the fact that nothing was found in the initial search is kind of odd. So it's now late September 2021, so the search is still expanding, and obviously no clues have been found yet. So as the days turned into weeks with no leads, officials broadened the search area. So they started considering the possibility that Joel might have wandered off route or extended his trek. Search teams expanded into adjacent areas north and east of Lake Eleanor, including Cherry Lake and as far as the remote Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne region. So they're thinking that maybe he decided to keep hiking to different lakes. By late September, Yosemite authorities released detailed maps illustrating the search coverage, green lines traced across vast areas to show where individual searchers, dog teams, and helicopter flights had scoured the wilderness. The operation by this point involved numerous agencies and volunteers, making it one of the most extensive search efforts in recent Yosemite history. However, once again, no clues were found about Joel. None of his gear. There's a picture of, I'm assuming, his inflatable red kayak.
Yeah.
Now, you would think, well, I always do this. We'll wait till theories.
Yeah, wait till theories. Look, you did it.
I know. I did. I'm learning. Teach this old dog new tricks.
Yes.
So notably, like I said, none of Joel's gear turned up, including his bright red inflatable kayak, an item that would be hard to miss from the air. So this lack of any physical evidence left searchers baffled and deeply concerned.
Yeah. I'm looking at the missing comment from Facebook page.
You want to read some of it?
Yeah, I'll read. I was getting to his possessions. Believed his Kelty brand yellow and gray backpack, green sleeping bag, bright red inflatable kayak, pictured above. So that was the correct kayak.
Yeah.
Blue-green hammock in tan or blue zip-off pants.
Wow, temps were near 100.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but he trained in some of the stuff that was pretty intense. I'm not saying you can't succumb to it, but
yeah,
right, I'm not getting into theories yet.
I know. Now you're doing it.
Yep, I am.
Okay, so it's October of 2021 now. So as the search entered its second month, the Sierra weather began to shift. So obviously, October hits, the weather is going to start getting pretty gnarly in the Sierras. And so the first autumn storm swept through Yosemite's high country, dusting higher elevations with snow. Overnight temperatures dropped and intermittent rain and snow made conditions more challenging for both search teams and any chance of a stranded hiker surviving in the backcountry. By this time, with no results after weeks of difficult searching, officials made the hard decision to scale back the active search. So at this time, the full-scale search missions were tapered off as resources were diverted to other needs, and heavy weather was coming into the region. So it just makes it even less accessible. Like Joe mentioned during the location profile, this area receives 10 to 20 feet of snow in the winter.
Yeah.
So you never know once you're getting into October, November, when one of those big storms is going to hit. So
this is actually not as thick as I thought it might be. This is kind of like halfway through. So I'll zoom out just so you can see where I got this from. So it's pretty sparse up there, actually. It's not that dense.
Well, I mean, it looks like granite, a lot of granite rock.
Yeah, but I'm saying for like search and rescue.
Yeah,
he went from here to here. And that was one of the thicker parts of forest.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess I'm surprised because I thought it might be a little bit thicker. Now we only have that one photosphere from this spot.
Can you look at the map from different years to see if vegetation has changed over the years?
Okay. Yeah, what year is this again? Good call.
So this was he went missing in 2021. Because, I mean, when we were there was a forest fire going through the area, so I wouldn't be shocked if some areas were, thick one year and then...
All right. So here's the dam, here's the lake. So there was one trail like kind of here.
Yeah.
So let's go to 20... This is 2020.
Okay.
It's still pretty sparse. 19.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it changes much.
Yeah. Yeah, even going back to 2009.
Now, that looks a little...
it's a little thicker, 2009. But, I mean, that's so far... And that could be resolution issues, too.
Yeah.
But it still seems kind of sparse. A lot of those are shadows. But so pixelated. Yeah, you have a satellite photo from 98.
Wow.
It's black and white.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess over the years, the vegetation thickness of the area hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah.
And in recent times, it doesn't look like it's changed much year to year. So it's definitely not the thickest area we've seen for a search.
No, that's what I'm very surprised by this. I wish there'd be more photosphere images from in there. That's quite literally the thickest part is where it's from. And now let's go back there after we looked at all that so you can get an idea of how much less dense it is everywhere else. So for those listening, we're looking through, I mean, major trees have 5 to 6 feet between them. You can see really far in the distance. I mean, there's some brush. Yeah. Trails are a lot better than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
For anyone listening, it's definitely not like if you've ever been through a pine, is it pines they do in the rows?
Yeah.
Like when they plant a road pine forest and everything's like lined up. It doesn't look exactly like that, but that's kind of how far you can see between the trees, just to get an idea for those just listening how far you can see. And like 50 to 100 feet in all directions.
Yeah.
It's pretty...
And even the vegetation is...
And this was in May.
Yeah, the vegetation's only coming up about, 4 feet?
Yeah.
So it's not super thick. Obviously still...
We've seen a lot thicker for search and rescue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on. I've belabored this topic.
Yeah. So... rangers continued periodic check-ins of the area and remained alert for any new information. and backcountry travelers were still asked to report any sightings of Joel or abandoned gear. Unfortunately, through the rest of October, no new evidence emerged. The case transitioned from an active search and rescue to a continuous but limited investigative status, essentially a recovery effort given the elapsed time. So, early November 2021, 2 months after Joel's disappearance, like we said, by now the formal search was called off. No clues. They found nothing. By early November, after the exhaustive search of roughly at an estimated 1,000 square miles of wilderness. Now, obviously, that's a huge amount of area. A lot of that is probably just aerial searching. It's not all on foot, but Yosemite officials
you can even see Lake Eleanor on the sign here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's even well labeled.
So Yosemite officials had to acknowledge that further large-scale search operations were unlikely to yield results. Joel's family was informed that despite all efforts, so we had ground teams, helicopters, canines, drones, and divers, the search had turned up no signs of Joel or any of his belongings. Park authorities kept Joel on the active missing persons list, meaning rangers would still investigate any new tips. And given the length of time with no contact or sightings, Joel was presumed deceased by the authorities, likely the victim of an accident or misfortune. On on December 4th of 2021, the family actually had a memorial service for Joel. So it was at this time with heavy hearts that Joel's family and community accepted the reality that Joel probably died because of something in the Yosemite wilderness. And a memorial service was held at at a church in Joel's hometown to honor his life. Family, friends, and even those who only knew him through the news gathered to celebrate the avid outdoorsman, husband, and father. Like I said, Joel left behind his wife of 7 years, Amanda, and their young son, Titus, who was just 2 years old at the time. The public responded with an amazing outpouring of support. Joel's sister-in-law started a GoFundMe campaign titled Help Amanda and Titus Bridge the Gap to assist the family financially. And this is largely in part due to a California law. So this law states that a missing person must be unaccounted for at least 5 years before a death certificate can be issued without a body. And this means that Amanda still cannot get the death certificate until the earliest of September 2026. And
jeez,
without that,
I'm assuming like all the military benefits potentially and all the other stuff.
Without the death certificate, she can't access life insurance or other benefits. So that's why the GoFundMe was started, just because
that sucks. And like I can see why.
Yeah. Because people would abuse that if...
Well, and I'm sure there's situations where someone like went missing intentionally.
Yeah.
But still, like...
It sucks. Yeah. I get why that law is probably in place, but I also feel bad for...
I feel like after that period of time, they should get like 5 years worth of if they were paying every year as like a lump sum.
Yeah.
Like say you're getting, just for round numbers, like $100 a year. Obviously it's more than that, but like then after the 5 year, you like get all 500 at once.
Or something like maybe they can collect a portion of it every year and then get like maybe like the money they're owed goes into some kind of like account that's, still monitored and controlled. And, maybe like the family can recover some of that. We got some window people yelling. Can you see what they're doing?
I don't know. They're yelling something.
Are they in a car?
Yes.
Describe to the audience what you see.
They're giving me heart hands. I'm giving it back, and they're saying we love you. I think
all a bunch of guys.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. It's all dudes. Fantastic. I tried getting it on video, but it wasn't happening. So anyway,
no. So yeah, I'm just off the top of my head, like it would be nice if like the family could get some of that money every year, and then say like the guy turned out to be committing fraud, you could like, all right, you owe this money back.
Yeah, just a percentage to help you
Not-
survive
yeah,
and
just
support
like-
your family and like
Getting around money
Yeah.
or something.
I don't know.
It really stinks.
there's
they have to wait.
probably a better way to do it and they're not.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel
Let's not go down this road. I'll just get upset.
I feel really bad for the wife, and as someone who has young kids, like,
Yeah.
children are expensive. And it's
Such an accountant. Not anything emotional.
well, no, I said I feel
As
bad.
someone who has kids, they're expensive.
well,
Or how about if someone has kids, you feel terrible.
I already said that.
Yeah.
We're talking about how she can't get the money.
Yeah.
Obviously, all that other stuff too.
Yeah.
You make me sound
No, but
like
I'm-
a cold-hearted accountant.
No, you're thinking of logistically why she needs to access that stuff potentially, and dealing with that on top of the loss.
Yeah.
It's just like insult to injury.
Yeah.
And it's just really,
The last thing you want to be dealing with is money when something like this happens.
yeah.
So
they need to give her more in arrears.
good on the
like,
community for
make up for the 5 years or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, good on the community for supporting her through the GoFundMe.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually look it up to see what they raised. You could actually probably,
Yeah, I'll do it while you're talking.
yeah, it was called the Help Amanda and Titus Bridge the Gap. I'm going to guess they raised $100,000. What's your guess?
50,000.
50,000?
Yeah, I hope it's more. Keep going because it might take me a while to find this.
Okay. So moving into the next year, June of 2022. So we still had some volunteer search efforts going on. So in the summer of 2022, Joel's case obviously had not been forgotten, and a group of experienced hikers and members of the High Sierra outdoor community organized a volunteer search to renew the effort to find any sign of Joel. In a lot of just to mind you, a lot of this information came from forum posts and Reddit posts from people involved in the search. So just take that with a grain of salt. But in one forum post, organizers outlined a plan to retrace Joel's route from Hetchy to Lake Eleanor and search additional areas like Laurel Lake, Frog Creek, and the shores of Lake Eleanor. They timed the search for June 2022, hoping that spring snowmelt might reveal clues. For instance, melting snow or rising creek levels could dislodge equipment or remains that had been hidden. Joel's family was kept in the loop and even joined on some of the efforts. They had actively participated in the initial search and rescue operations and continued to seek closure. Over several days, volunteers painstakingly scoured the backcountry, checking remote corners and water inlets that official teams might have missed. Sadly, no evidence was found even after this renewed search by skilled hikers, and the case remained a mystery. So to the present day, from his disappearance to now, his case is still listed as a missing person in the Yosemite National Park, and his disappearance remains unsolved. No trace of him, none of his gear or clothing has ever been recovered despite the extensive search. Joel's disappearance has been cited in broader discussions of missing persons in national parks, including David Paulides, his Missing 411 series, which highlights cases of experienced hikers vanishing near water or granite areas. Not going to go into his books, but you can probably guess what he thinks caused his disappearance.
Does he think Bigfoot?
I mean, you've read his books.
Yeah.
Park officials maintain an open file on Joel, and any new tip or discovery will be investigated, but more than 3 years later, there have been no significant developments. So I wanted to get into, just briefly before we get into theories, we've covered, what did I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, we've covered 5 different cases before Joel in Yosemite. So that was, we covered Stacy. She went missing in 1981. And we covered David Morrison, 1998. Walter Reinhard, 2002. Michael Allen, Fissery, 2005, and George Pensa in 2011. So Stacy went missing 22 miles from where Joel went missing.
Oh, wow.
David Morrison went missing 19.5 miles away from where Joel went missing. So Stacy went missing in Sunrise High Sierra Camp. David went missing in Yosemite Valley. Walter Reinhard went missing in White Wolf, which was only 9.3 miles away. I forgot to put where the miles Michael Allen went missing, but he went missing in Tiltil Valley, which...
You know what else we forgot? It just hit me.
What?
We had that one listener from Australia that asked us to put kilometers and stuff in.
Oh, yeah.
So next time.
And George went missing in the upper Yosemite Falls area, which was about 16.8 miles away. So, and these are just cracking the surface of the cases that are in Yosemite.
The ones that we covered.
Yeah, there's more that I plan on covering at some point.
Yeah.
This is just what we've gotten to. Michael Allen, we actually talked with his sister. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting case. If you haven't listened to that one yet, I urge you to go back into our back catalog and find it.
Yep. And then just re-listen to everything else.
Yeah.
While you're at it.
Yeah, play it over and over, even the background.
Yeah, you can actually just put it on. This little trick to help us grow. When you go to bed at night, just play all of our catalog and turn the volume down. You don't even have to listen to it. Just let it run.
Just let it run.
Just let it run.
There you go.
We've become huge because we get our just current listeners just let our shows run on repeat.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, let's do this.
Now our secret's out, though.
I think I'm going to get a couple different cell phones and create accounts. And
Right.
have running.
Just a cell phone bot farm.
Yes.
All right, we'll cut all that out.
Nope.
Excuse me. So, getting into theories. I'll go through kind of what the main theories are, and then I'll toss the hot potato to Joe, and he can tell us what he's thinking. So, the number one theory that park authorities believed happened was a wilderness accident. So, park authorities and search teams officially classified Joel's disappearance as a likely tragic wilderness accident. So
Keep going.
okay.
Keep going. You get so distracted.
Well, I'm watching.
I know
wanna
you
see
are.
What's going on?
You are incapable of keeping going
I
into
know.
show when people are in the window.
I know. Oh, now.
Yes. We got twerkers.
Yeah.
We got twerkers. That is the best.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, fantastic.
We've had some pretty rowdy outside people today.
Oh, it's been
For
awesome.
March.
I know. It's because it's warm out.
Yeah.
When heat hits the city, people are like, outside.
Yeah. I mean, warm. It's 40.
It's warm. I was wearing shorts, walking my dog in the sun.
That's true.
You know, people are just saying hi more often.
People are happy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I always get this feeling. Me and my wife were talking about this. We were on a walk. And it said, like, you get this feeling where you get so much joy
Yeah.
that you realize that you forgot what warm weather joy was like. And it's the most depressing. Like, you feel good, but you're like,
Yeah.
why do I live here?
Right.
One of those, like, oh, I've just been depressed for 4 months.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't seen the sun.
I haven't
and
seen
it's
the sun.
cold.
It's so
It's
wonderful.
grumpy.
So yeah, everyone's just twerking in the windows.
Yeah,
like,
we've had some this is some wild outdoor activity for March.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's more like Summerfest activity.
Okay. Let's
All
get
right.
back. Yes.
Where were
let's
we?
Let's get back at it. What park authorities were talking about?
Yeah. So they classified Joel's disappearance as a likely tragic wilderness accident, so fall drowning or exposure. Officials speculate Joel might have altered his original route, making search efforts challenging. Extensive searches produced no evidence reinforcing the idea of a sudden accidental scenario. But
I don't think he would have changed his route because there's like no other trails.
yeah,
I mean,
he could have just.
There's a lot of different trails.
Bushwhacked it.
Well, but even then we saw it's not much.
Yeah,
Like why?
yeah.
If he's trying to get to a specific lake, especially carrying a kayak and carrying
Yeah.
all the gear, you're not going to take a hard route if you don't need to.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Another very possible theory was accidental drowning. So this was strongly favored among experts and public speculation due to Joel's planned fishing trip with an inflatable kayak. Joel's gear, obviously, we said, included a bright red inflatable kayak. But the problem with this theory is no one ever found the kayak. If you fell overboard and drowned, that's one thing I don't ever remember hearing in his.
I have a theory on this already.
I didn't hear anything about him having a life jacket or anything with him. So, he could have fallen over and drowned, but you would think the kayak would then be floating.
Yeah.
On the surface of the lake, and searchers got out there pretty quickly. So, and I don't believe those lakes are emptied via river. It must be like snowmelt, keeps those lakes filled.
Yep.
What was your theory on the drowning thing?
I was just wondering. I would agree with being an inflatable kayak. They're tough.
Yeah.
They usually have multiple chambers. So like if you were to puncture it or sink in it, I'm like, would it still float?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm wondering if like it got deflated enough. Will it sink? And if not, though, is it going to drift down into some river or something and then like get stuck somewhere where you wouldn't find it?
Maybe.
Because if it was like a normal kayak, like that, you're going to find that. It's going to get caught in rocks or something like that. But I'm thinking like if his got punctured and deflated and if he's in the middle of the lake, like worst case scenario, it gets deflated, water starts coming in, he's got to swim, gets hypothermia, drowns if he's not wearing like a life vest or something. And then the kayak does float somewhere, but because it's inflatable, it gets punctured.
Yeah.
And red is not a very standout color.
Yeah.
Against all that stuff.
But
it's better
it's big
than,
enough. I mean, it's
not if it's deflated and crumpled up.
But
that's
now,
kind of what I'm getting at.
How about this? Assuming he is out on one of those lakes fishing, it sounded like, he had a portable stove. He had collapsible sink. He had a lot of gear with him, heavy gear.
Oh, like
he's not going to go out in the kayak with all that gear. So you would think logically, like,
or maybe he did.
I mean, he sounded experienced. He's done this before.
Yeah.
You're in a remote area. Like, if I was at Lake Eleanor and I had some camping gear with me, I'd probably leave it on shore if I went out fishing.
Now,
I'm not worried
this side of Lake Eleanor is not that remote. It has an actual campground.
Okay.
Because it's close to this dam, there's road access.
Yeah.
So there's people that can hike from Cherry Lake.
Okay.
And it looks like only a couple miles to Lake Eleanor.
Yeah.
So, but he would have come in on the east side. Yeah, the east side of the lake, which would be definitely less crowded, but still, you have people can hike through this, and they got a dam here. People, I'm sure. Look actually, there's buildings right here.
Yeah.
So he would be on this side of the lake.
Even still, I don't think he would have probably gone fishing in an inflatable kayak with all of his gear.
Nah, you have a good point. Like, he would have set up a base camp and then took it out.
You would think that if he had drowned in the lake, and even if his kayak floated away, deflated, some of his gear would have been left on shore somewhere. And it wasn't.
I agree.
So I was thinking of that when they were talking about his gear not being found.
Yeah.
Another theory is he got lost and got off trail. So speculation that he extended or altered his route, becoming disoriented.
You said it right.
In the dense remote terrain. Poorly marked trails around Lake Eleanor and nearby wilderness could easily lead to disorientation. This could account for why none of his gear was found. He just wandered out of the search area.
I would say maybe if he didn't have a map or a compass, but I doubt he didn't have those things or a GPS. Yeah. That's all assumption, just for the internet trolls.
And I'll have to check. I was reading something. I believe he did have... you talk for a second.
I was going to say, I wonder if the one thing I would know, if you're a solo hiker and you do this all the time and you know the area, which it seems like he did, there's this tiny little lake that's a little south between Lake Eleanor and Hetchy that, again, if you're soloing all the time, you probably want to do things solo.
Yeah.
Maybe not be around people. Like, I would totally detour to this thing and like set up camp and maybe try and go out and fish this lake, because no one's going to be there.
Yeah.
And it's not that far out of the way. That is, again, completely just making up a scenario of something that I might do. Now, to be fair, though, I would say in my pre-planning, like, hey, there's a possibility I'd go here. Because I usually, when I look at maps or I think of where I'm going, I also look at all the places I might want to consider.
Yeah. So I did leave this little fact out of the gear. So some reports noted that he might have had a GPS watch with him. It's not 100% confirmed, but...
Okay.
So theoretically, he might have had GPS navigation on him.
Okay.
That doesn't guarantee that if you're lost, it's going to get you out of there. But so, yeah, I mean, I think getting lost that would explain why none of his stuff was found, is that he got really, really lost and hiked out of the search area.
I'm kind of jiving with you on that one.
I'm still stuck on how none of that stuff was found.
That's where, when you keep saying that, I think it like hit home to me.
It's finally settling in.
Well, no, you're right, because I was like, oh, maybe he lost it, and you're right when you said, like, why would he go out with all the stuff in a boat if he doesn't need to?
Yeah.
Unless he wants to camp on the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
And he's portaging. And
maybe like there was some rough weather that blew in quick and the lake got a little rough. And
that's a big lake.
Yeah. And, you know, that inflatable kayak, I saw it. I mean, it looks pretty sturdy, but in rough waters, that would be.
Yeah, it was sitting pretty low.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have any, can you see if anyone has any pictures from the shore of the lake?
Yeah, I know they will. Let's see here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
there's one out on the water.
Perfect. It looks like it's right in the middle. Hopefully that's correct. Sometimes it's off a little bit. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's from the dam.
That's not. That's not a big lake.
That's not. It looked bigger from the.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look like it could get some. It doesn't look big enough to get waves that would rock out somebody out of a kayak.
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Growing up near a bigger lake and living near Lake Michigan.
Yeah, like think about Lake Geneva.
Yeah.
That's rough sometimes, and that you could still manage a kayak probably on a rough day. It'd be tough.
Yeah.
But this definitely isn't getting like that.
No. And I mean, that's small enough that if you fell in the middle and it wasn't like freezing, you could swim the shore.
Especially if you had a life vest.
Yeah, which we don't know if he did. It wasn't. I would think that would be something that would be listed as part of his gear.
Aren't a lot of fishing vests also life vests? They have like somewhat floating capacity.
I don't fish, so I would know.
Okay,
you might be right.
Anyone
that's a fisherman that's listening, or woman, let us know.
Fisherman or fisher lady.
Yeah, fisher lady. All right, let's get through the rest of these theories. So another one was wildlife encounter, but this is pretty unlikely. You know, mountain lion attacks are very rare, especially a grown male is probably not going to be attacked by.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not a very big lake.
I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool. It looks so calm.
Like for the listeners, it is a big lake, but not big enough to generate like 1 or 2 foot waves that would like
Swells.
rock. Yeah, that would rock a kayak and potentially.
It looks like a great lake to take a kayak out in to fish.
Oh, you could paddleboard across this whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna rule out wildlife encounter. I just don't think that's very likely. And he had bear canisters for his food, so like he was prepared, and he probably he wasn't attracting bear. If he had a bear canister, he knew enough to keep his food tied up. And
yeah, they said he was experienced, right?
Yeah. Now that view makes it look a little bigger.
No, look at that. This is like the thickest part of the lake.
Yeah. I mean, that's a decent sized lake.
That's why I said it's decent, but it's not getting huge waves. That's for sure. This Peng Shi, I actually, while you were talking, I went to their photography page. We're going to have to get some of these prints and hang them in the office. Yeah, like that. It's most of the pictures for this episode I pulled up in Photosphere were his, and he's his awesome, like self promoting his photography.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, keep talking. I'll pull it up. I saved it because it looks so cool.
I just the final theory that people talked about was obviously foul play, but there was no evidence or signs supporting criminal involvement, and it was considered highly unlikely due to the remoteness and lack of any indication of human interference. So those pictures are amazing.
I think this is the lake. Because that's why he was. These are his Yosemite pictures. The guy that we've been following.
Kind of looks like. I mean,
it looks like it. Small version of it.
So, yeah, what's your theory?
I mean, how many
We know he
shows
was in the
a-
park because the park ranger saw him at 5:00.
Yeah, how many shows in a row have I been agreeing with you? We haven't had a disagreement in a long time. I'm with you on getting lost. And I'd say that's my top choice is he just either chose a different route or went off course and then somehow didn't get back on and succumbed to the elements over time.
Yeah.
I still think that's highly unlikely. I would say my next one would be some sort of water accident.
Yeah.
And he did have his stuff in there. And it's potentially, okay, if it deflates, the weight of the stuff would bring it to under the water. So you wouldn't find it. Because again...
they had divers in the lakes. So...
But an inflatable raft crumpled up red at the bottom of a lake.
A body and like a big bag full of gear.
It's a big lake to search for a body.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch that show where they have those divers, they find cars with people? You always laugh at really gruesome stuff.
Well, no, I mean,
I know
it reminded me of
just messing with you, but they always find a car like right off the road, and it's been missing for 12 years.
Well, think about
and no one's ever seen it there.
Is it Lake Mead? The water level dropped enough that like submerged cars that they didn't know were there, like were showing up.
Yes, and that's like a heavily trafficked area.
I think it was Lake Mead. That's the one that the big dam is attached to by Las Vegas.
Yeah. So, like, I get the divers went there, but still, like, that's unless you're dragging the entire thing.
I think I'm kind of leaning towards, like you said, I think he wandered off. He either wandered off.
I mean, you said it, but I'll take credit.
Yeah. Okay. I said it. I think he either unintentionally wandered out of the search area or intentionally was going to fish somewhere else. Maybe he fished at Lake Eleanor and it wasn't catching anything. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to try this lake. And I'm thinking Yosemite's 1,200 square miles. I'm thinking he wandered out of, like, he's not in this area that you have on the map.
Oh, you think that he's not there at all?
I don't think he's there. I think he hiked somewhere else, and the searchers obviously focused a lot of their energy on this area because that's where he said he was going to be.
Yeah.
But, he was a fit guy, outdoorsman. He probably could have covered that. It's not like he had a lot of gear with him, but he could have covered, decent terrain in another day. He was supposed to be out the 9th. He went in on the 6th. How many miles could, you're hiking by yourself, you're fit, you can, you're good at altitude. Like, how many miles do you think you could cover in 2 days?
From what it seems like on just the pictures I've been following from this side to the other, that photographer did it all in one day.
Yeah.
Went from one end to the other.
And that was 9 miles. So say he went to Lake Eleanor, he got there by like lunch, fished, kind of stunk. So maybe he was like, maybe I'll go Cherry Lake or zoom out. Are there any other lakes like to the north?
Not really. I think it's those
three.
And really these two, if he started from that end and was heading this way. And these are kind of heavily populated.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of puzzled. I mean,
this is a weird one.
What about to the south?
So,
what do we have?
Nothing really, yeah.
It's really those 3 lakes.
Yep.
Now, what about the Hetchy Reservoir? It looks like, is that a river that goes out of there?
Well, here's the Hetchy Dam.
Yep. So go the other way.
Oh, you're saying north?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like, it's like do they call it a confluence? Remember we had someone that like went missing on this river?
Oh, yeah.
Because it goes for a long time. But
I don't know. I don't know. I would say...
I mean, my off the deep end would be somebody like assaulted him.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's a wild one.
I mean, drowning is likely, but
I'm thinking he got lost.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. I would think if he drowned, his gear would have been found. Some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's a head scratcher.
Yeah, well, definitely let us know your theories online. This is every time I feel this one will make sense.
When I was researching, I'm like, this is a pretty Forward case.
And then it's just not.
No,
it never
then
is.
it's not.
But thanks again for tuning into our show. We appreciate all of you for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can find videos of each episode. You can also catch us over on LinkedIn. Also, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, please visit our website or Facebook store to buy some awesome merch. And as Mike said, we'll have an actual storefront popping up where we're looking at some of the stuff. I mean, blankets, hockey pucks,
Golf balls.
We won't post all that stuff.
Underwear.
I will be getting some Locations Unknown underwear. 100%. Yeah.
Banana boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Additionally, you can subscribe and pay for additional episodes and access to other swag that we'll send you through our Patreon, YouTube subscriptions, and Apple, where you'll have access to, again, special events and additional shows for paid customers only. And lastly, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.